and you're very welcome to the IT Sligo virtual open evening. On this talk, we'll be chatting about the CAO and SUSI, and I'm delighted to have three guests with me here this evening. First of all, we've got Micheal Taylor, who's Career Guidance Counsellor here at Summerhill College in Sligo. She's also Secretary of the IGC branch in Sligo as well. So Micheal, you're very, very welcome.
Thank you so much.
We also have Ellen Woodward, and Ellen is a current student. She's just after starting first year with us, and she is studying our BSc Hons in computing. And Ellen will be given a student's perspective of going through the CAO system. Ellen, once again, thank you so much.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Thank you. And last but not least, we'll have Mr. Dave Murphy, who of course is from SUSI Ireland, and Dave's going to be telling us all about applying through SUSI. So if you have any questions like that, please do send them in, and we try and get around to them as well. Dave, you're very welcome. Thanks very much for joining us also.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us.
So we're going to kick off with Micheal first of all, and we look at the basics of the CAO. Micheal, so what is the CAO and how can you apply?
So the CAO is the Central Applications Office, and this is the office that kind of administers all the applications for all of the courses on CAO. You can imagine that's a pretty big job. There are about 1,450 courses on CAO, so they process all that information, and they are in constant contact with all the higher educational institutions at various times during the year, processing all of that information. So you can apply through just the applications have just opened just last Friday, and you can register for CAO now. So that's not to panic at any stage. You have loads of time in order to make all your choices, but you just need to kind of get registered now as soon as possible.
Yeah, and just when you mentioned that, Micheal, dates, of course, very important, and prices. And I know there is, if you're in before a certain date, you will get it cheaper.
You will, absolutely. So if you have registered early, you will get in for €30. So it's really important to do that. And dates in CAO are incredibly important, and it's really important to keep an eye on those on the website at all times, because if you're not in before a certain date, I'm afraid they don't let you come in late, even a minute past the time. So just, I suppose, one of the key dates that it's really important to have most of your information in by is the 1st of February. This is a date for restricted entry courses as well. So restricted entry courses, they're just courses that may have an additional part to the entry procedure. So it could be, for example, a portfolio, or it could be an interview, or it could be the HPAT for medicine. It could be lots of different things. But if you're applying for those courses, it's absolutely imperative that you get them down on the CAO as soon as possible, and particularly before February 1st. I suppose after that, colleges then start the whole interview process, and it just gives all the colleges time to actually go through that process.
Yeah, and what I love even the fact is, Micheal, that, as you say, have everything in by the 1st of February, but there is that, I suppose, wonderful flexibility at the moment to actually get that application in, but you know, you get it cheaper, you can apply, get all your details in, but you don't necessarily need to, in the next week, know what courses you're going to be choosing.
Not. No, for the majority of students, you have really until the 1st of July into next year. Now, I would recommend really that you really try and start getting your house in order, I suppose, over the next couple of months. And that can take time, and it's something not to start panicking about. I suppose, first of all, when you do open your application, that you start maybe putting down some courses for your level 8s and your level 6s and 7s. So CAO have 2 lists, and they work independently of each other. So you can put down up to 10 courses in order of preference on your level 8s and 10 on your level 6s and 7s. And you can get an offer from each of these lists. So it's actually a really good system. And you can be really smart about it as well. So you can apply for a level 6 and 7, and those courses, you can just keep adding on your levels as you progress through that in college. And you can also have your list of your level 8s as well. So just take your time about it. You can put in some courses now, you can go back in a week or two, and you can add and you can subtract courses. There's no major panic at the moment, but just allow yourself to think about these courses and process the information, and talk to people around you, and talk to your guidance counsellor, and get as much advice as you can.
Thanks so much, Micheal. And I suppose something you mentioned there, I know the CAO are absolutely massive on this, and it's an issue you see every year, and we see every year, is putting courses down in the genuine order of preference.
Yeah, this is incredibly important. Like, really, when you're looking at a list of courses, they should really fall in the same cluster of courses. So, for example, if you're interested in engineering, I suppose the courses and the list of courses that you should have should fall within that family of engineering courses. So there's no point in jumping from one type of course to another type of course. And also in the order of preference is key. So for example, if you're offered your second choice on your level 8, everything underneath your third, your fourth, your fifth choice, that's all wiped off the system and that's distributed to other students. You probably should accept your course. You can always move up in the second round, but really, I suppose you just need to be incredibly careful that you don't land yourself into a course that you don't maybe particularly like and not have any options at the end of the day. So get advice on it, take your time over that choice and take your time over looking at all those different preferences.
And in terms of advice, Marie, just when you mentioned that, I suppose, as you said, researching what students want to study, researching courses and so on, really, really important. In terms of sources of information and advice, where can students turn to?
I suppose first and foremost, I suppose it's talking to your guidance counsellor in your school. If all the schools have guidance counsellors available, so make sure make an appointment. And you might not get the answer after the first session with your guidance counsellor. It could take 2 sessions or 3 sessions, and that's okay. That's part of the process. I suppose as well to talk to maybe teachers, if you're somebody who's maybe really interested in ag science, talk to your ag science teacher about it. They have a degree in the subject, they'll know people that work in that industry, in that area. And then I suppose it's talking to people that maybe work in the industry outside as well. I would say as well that I don't think you can do enough research. You're going to spend quite a lot of money on your education. So you should look at every course and all of the modules. And that would mean, like, I know in particular, and kudos to IT Sligo, your website is excellent. Look at the actual website and the breakdown of the modules. And if you actually click onto them, you can see the learning outcomes in each of those individual modules. Take time over this, okay? You're making a big investment in your education, so take time. Look at the modules and actually see what are the kind of different electives that you can choose. Can you do a language with your course? What's the work placement? Is that available? So all those different parameters, look, compare and contrast your courses and spend time doing that.
And you mentioned too, Marie, a couple of minutes ago, the different levels, of course, the 2 sides of the application at 6, 7 and 8. Okay. And an interesting one always, I suppose for me and for students to look into is alternative pathways. And I know, for example, here at IT Sligo or health science degrees, pathways into the allied health professions, which are really, really popular in terms of applications nationwide last year. But in terms of alternative pathways, there's always a different route into a career if points may seem out of reach.
Yeah, and I suppose it's kind of frightening for students at the moment because so many courses, the points have just become prohibitive. The points have just escalated in the last couple of years. So I think just to settle yourself and just relax about it, there is always different routes into different courses. And you can enter, particularly the ITs are excellent for their level 6s, which is a 2-year higher certificate. And after you've completed that, you can add on your 1-year level 7, add on your level 8. And there's students in the IT who've gone on to do level 9, level 10, etc. And you just keep adding on. So don't be obsessed, I suppose, about points. Okay, so points are, I suppose, basic economics. It's about supply and demand, but a lot of the points in some of the colleges they've gotten incredibly high just with the inflation over the last couple of years. So look at other courses and what is available and compare the modules between, some courses in different colleges and courses maybe here in the west of Ireland. Often modules are very, very similar. Okay, so just take that into consideration. You're still going to get a good quality degree. So just make sure that you do the research there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one I love, and I know it's a fond favourite of guidance counsellors around the country, Maria, is common entry routes. And students who, I've seen it with us, who might be debating between biomedical science and pharmaceutical science and common entry routes and the beauty of them.
I think it's a really good entry route to go into. I suppose in second level, maybe your experience of engineering or your experience science is quite narrow in comparison to what you'll experience at third level. And you may not have been exposed to different aspects of those disciplines. So it's lovely to give yourself a good grounding in that subject. And then I suppose, particularly say, for example, in computing. So I know an awful lot of students may not have had that experience of doing courses in computing at the moment. And when they go in, they can do a common first year and then get advice from the lecturers into what area they should really start doing their specialism in. And I think that's a really good idea. You get a good balance of everything at first year, and then you start navigating your way through your specialism then as you move through your years.
And just funny enough, just to lead on into when you say good balance and a good feel of something, once again, going to the college you're interested in, attending an open day. I know it's virtual with us today, but actually getting down to a campus, taking a tour, and that's all really important as well, isn't it? To get, as you say, a balance, a feel for a place.
Yeah, I think, I suppose in my experience, I've had students who've gone to campuses that are really, really huge. Some students love it. They love the anonymity of it. They love just the vastness of it, and they love that big, feeling. But some students come back and say, gosh, I felt really overwhelmed by that, and it just really didn't suit me. One thing to really consider when you're looking at courses as well, and often in most of the prospectuses, you will see the class size. That's a really important thing to consider. So if you're somebody maybe that doesn't particularly work well unless you actually are able to engage with that lecturer, it's something to really consider, that you may need that extra bit of support, and just being able to call the lecturer by the first name and ask them those questions. That's a really important thing to consider as well. So just to get that balance right for you as a student, that you're sitting in a lecture theatre or you're in a tutorial and you feel that this is kind of suitable for your academic needs and it's suitable for your style of learning.
And outside of the course then, of course, is really, really important too, Maria. And you mentioned earlier on the financial cost of going through college. But outside of that, then you've got to take other things into consideration: accommodation, cost of living, stuff like that.
Yeah, I suppose it's often a question that you really have to sit down and think about very first and foremost. What is the financial situation like? And I know we've all been through a difficult time with COVID, and that's taken a huge toll on an awful lot of families. And first and foremost, I suppose, is going to Dublin or going to one of the bigger cities around the country, is that going to be prohibitively expensive? There's plenty of really wonderful courses all along the west coast of Ireland where you can obtain your excellent degree, including an IT Sligo. So it's really important, I suppose, firstly, to look at the financial cost. So I suppose that's the first thing to consider. There's no point in putting down courses on your CAO and then finding out at a later date, well, actually, I really can't afford to do that, So I know you're going to hear later from the SUSI desk, but this is probably the most important thing that you do first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely, Maria. There's so much to take into account, and that's some fantastic advice, Maria, and thank you so much for all of that. We could chat all day, but I'm conscious we've got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to move on to talk to Ellen Woodward. And Ellen, of course, as I mentioned at the start there, is studying our BSc Hons in computing. So Ellen, you're just in first year now, and just after going through the CAO system, and from your point of view last year, having gone through it, what did you find really useful when it came to researching?
Well, I found that prospectuses were amazing. So I had like a full stack of them in my bedroom, and I used to just flick through them, and they had so much information about not just the academic side, but also the recreational side and information about the college. So I went to a lot of virtual open days because I was going through my Leaving Cert in the pandemic. So I went to a lot of virtual ones, and I also got to go on a few campus tours towards the end of sixth year. And I found they were very beneficial because you could talk one-on-one to students. And I found that being able to talk to someone who'd already been doing the course that you were interested in was probably the best thing to do, because you got a first-hand experience from them, and they gave you tips on the lectures, they gave you what they liked, what they disliked. And I found that really, really good to be able just to talk to someone who's in your shoes and did exactly what you're going to do. And definitely, as Maria mentioned earlier, the module lists on the course were amazing, because I really wanted to get into machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I researched the course and realized computing was the way to go. So I was able to go into the module list, and I saw that in year 4, I can take an elective in machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So this is what I'm going to do. So to be able to go in and see exactly what I'm going to be learning and exactly the outcomes of what I'm going to get was perfect. It was amazing.
And funny you say campus tour, Ellen, because I actually remember bringing you on that campus tour. And I must say you your information, you probably had more than me nearly on computing. You were so clued in. It was absolutely amazing. So you had probably done your research. So anyone was watching, yes, Ellen's definitely, her tips for research are definitely bang on. And of course, Ellen, what a lot of people might know about you, of course, is you did get 625 points in the Leaving Cert, and very well done to you, of course. But that would have allowed you to do pretty much anything in the country. And you chose computing, which, was just slightly over 300 points with us. And that's what you chose. As I say, you could have chosen anything, but you followed your heart, because I know from chatting to you that day and even talking to you now, like you love computing. So is that a pretty solid piece of advice? Like, follow your heart, do what you're really, really interested in, and don't worry about the points.
100%. Like, I kind of believe, like, follow your passion and not your points. Because I got questions being like, why aren't you studying medicine with your points? I don't want to study medicine. I want to study computing, and I don't want to go into a course, even though it's 500 points, just to have to drop out after first year because I don't enjoy it. I want to go in doing what I love, and I'll stick with it. And since I've got here, no one's asked me my points. No, they don't. The minute you get your course, no one cares. The points become meaningless. So you could be in a course with 625 points, and you could be in a course with 300, but you're all the same. You all get in. It's not wasting points if you're doing what you love. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that is very solid advice. And obviously you came out obviously with the max as you did, but I suppose the flip side of that too then is it's easier said than done, but for students not to stress about points. I know it's obviously easy for you to say it now in college, having got to 65, but let's say students who are thinking about courses now, to put them to one side, as Maria explains, the beauty of the CAO system is that put it in genuine preference of what you want to study. So would you say that as well? Like, just once again, to reiterate, try not to stress about points.
Yeah, put what you want at the top. Even if you think you might not get it, put it, because you'd never know what happens. You could have a brilliant exam and come out with H1s, the whole board, and get it, even though you went in thinking you're not going to get it. Like, put your dream courses at the top, because you never know what's going to happen. But then also utilize the level 6 and level 7s, because you never know. You could get in on a level 6 and you could come out at the same time with a level 8 as everyone else who came in on higher points, and you come out with the same degree. And I think that's really important, that people remember to fill out the level 6 and 7s, because you can get into your dream course that way with lower points. And some people don't remember that. People just go straight for the level 8s and try to get in there.
Yeah, 100%. I know even in the college, our head of research, Dr. John Bartlett, he started on a level 6, obviously studied up to PhD level 10. There you go. I have a friend, I'll not tell you what money he's on, but he's a financial controller for a big company in Ireland. He's on massive money, doesn't like to spend his money, but he's worked his way up from level 6 right the way through as well. So that option is there as well. So both sides of it, try not to worry about points. We'll probably keep saying it, but hopefully people do, as I say, take heed of that one. And outside of course options, of course, Ellen, there's other factors to consider as well. And what else would you have taken into account when you were choosing your course, but also your location?
Well, I live in Sligo, and I've lived in Sligo my whole life. So I have like a connection with it, and I really wanted to stay in Sligo. And I know a lot of people want to leave their hometown because it's boring. They've been there their whole life. But I don't think people realize, when you go in as a college student, even if you're in the same town, you see it in a whole different light. It's like you're moving to a new town. Like, it's actually really weird. You don't know what I'm talking about until you actually experience it. You go in and it's like you've never seen this place before, because you're going in with new eyes as a college student. So I think if there are people from Sligo who want to leave, because even though the course they want to do is here, but they want to leave Sligo, I'd say consider staying, because you've got the benefit of living at home, but you've also got, it's like it's a new town. It's really weird to describe, but I've seen the accommodation is lovely, and it's all so close to campus, and it's all so much cheaper than going to Dublin or Galway. So I think people just need to consider that sometimes, that staying at home actually isn't as bad as a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah, it's funny. I would have done the same. I went to school here in Bundoran. I'm not to say when it was in the late 90s when I would have started first year, but I went to Sligo myself, and I was back in the school in Bundoran recently giving a talk, and I was trying to explain that to them exactly what you just said, and I said, I know you've all been to Sligo before. I know you've gone shopping. I says, but you haven't seen Sligo fully, so I totally get what you're saying. And for anyone that is living, of course, locally, and of course anyone that is moving here, the accommodation prices are amazing, and the accommodation, as you mentioned there, is absolutely cracking now. It is purpose built, or within a 1 to 12 minute walk, starting from €57 per week. I can just round that off, but the accommodation is absolutely amazing. So it's brilliant here. And I suppose before we let you go, Ellen, you've obviously started now in first year. How's everything going so far? How have you settled in? Have you got involved in clubs and societies? Of course, you're helping us out already, which is amazing. But how's life going so far?
Well, it's very busy at the moment. So I've signed up for a lot of things. So I'm a class rep for my group. I'm a student ambassador here today. I also just got a sports scholarship for karate. So I've joined the karate club, which I'm also treasurer of. And so I've started training with there, and I joined the badminton club, and I've joined several societies. And I've only been to one session, and I've already made so many friends. And it was an hour session, and I walked away with 3 or 4 new friends who I'd never seen before. And you meet people from like all across the campus. So I've got friends in business, social care, environmental science, and I'm doing a computing degree. And I've got friends in year 2 and year 3, which I met. And you meet so many people. And the Students' Union organised so many different events. So there was a petting farm on campus, I think, was it Wednesday? And they give out goodie bags, and there was a freshers barbecue. So there's so much going on. And I feel like it's like you're living the dream. You think of college, you see it in movies, and it's weird to finally be here and actually be living it out. So I'm having a great time.
Absolutely delighted to hear that, and congratulations on your sports scholarship as well.
Thank
of
you.
course. And yeah, thanks a million. No more than Maria could listen to you all day as well. We could chat all evening. We might all just stay on afterwards. But yeah. I'm conscious I need to chat to Mr. Dave Murphy, who's probably a very sought after person throughout Ireland, especially as the year goes on, Dave, I'm sure. Of course, from SUSI, the Grants Award Authority here in Ireland. So, Dave, to kick us off, what types of grants are available to students applying through SUSI?
Okay, well, there's two type of grants that are available now. When students apply, it's up to SUSI, the assessors will assess them for both types, but they are namely the fee or the student contribution grant. As you may be aware, all students have to pay the student contribution, which at the moment is set at €3,000. So if you apply to SUSI, the fee or contribution grant can cover that. And then for some students, they will also be eligible for a maintenance grant. Now, the fee grant is paid directly to the college if the student is eligible on the student's behalf. So the student themselves don't actually see that. It's paid directly to the college in the student's name. But the maintenance grant is paid directly into the student's nominated bank account. So they put their own bank details in as part of the process. And that's paid in 9 monthly installments over the academic year. So usually from September to May. So they're available.
Brilliant, Dave. And when will applications open? I know it's a few months off before applications do open. And I know you guys do recommend people to apply early. And why is that?
Yeah, well, we usually open in April every year. For the first time this year in 2021, we opened in March for renewal applications. So students who have already been with us from the previous year, we opened a month earlier so they can renew their application, because students are obliged to renew their applications every year. So if you're doing a 4-year course, you're going to apply in year 1 and do 3 renewal applications. And then for new applications, so students completing their Leaving Cert, the new applications usually open in April every year. Now, the exact dates for 22-23 are not yet available, but if students keep an eye on the website, they will be announced closer to the time. But it's usually March/April time.
Brilliant, Dave. And when people do go to apply, it is through susi.ie, isn't it, Dave? Yeah.
Yes, you log on to the SUSI website. So yeah, www.susi.ie. On the homepage, you will see there's 4 large buttons. One of them is login apply. So you hit on that, it brings you in. You have to create an account for yourself. So you're going to create a username, a password, and a PIN code, which you should keep safe, obviously, because you need them to log into your account, because you can track the progress on your application yourself by logging into your account. So once you've created the account, you then just hit on start application, and the online application form opens up for you. So applications do have to be made through the online portal. We don't accept paper applications. There's no paper applications as such.
Brilliant, Dave. And in terms of when people do go to apply through SUSI, What kind of information would you guys be looking for? I know obviously it's going to be quite detailed, but a rough idea of what they will need.
Okay, so just in terms of what a student might need when they're sitting down to make their application, so they should probably try to get this information in advance so that they can do the application process in one sitting. They can start entering the application, save it, and go back in again, but we usually recommend, if you can, to do it in one sitting. So you're going to need, for example, you're going to need the PPSN number for the applicants. The PPSN numbers for any parties to the applicant. So for a dependent student, that would usually mean their parents or legal guardians. Or if you were an independent student, it would be your spouse, civil partner, or cohabitants that you would need. You're going to need your CAO or your UCAS registration number. For next year, the assessment year for income will be 2021. So you're going to need income details for the applicant and any parties to the applicant for 2021. Obviously the course details that you want to do. Now you don't have to have, finalized, a bit like the CAO, you don't have to finalize your course details to make your application to SUSI, because bear in mind we'll open in March or April and the students are only sitting their leaving cert in June and that. So you put your first choice of course on your application, and there is the opportunity to a course change notification to update it. So for example, if you had your top course on it and you didn't get it, but accepted, say, your second choice, you can go in and advise SUSI that you've accepted course B instead of course A, and the system will update and you would get a new award letter based on the course that you've accepted. And finally, we would need your air code usually as well, because for the maintenance grants, they are based on how far you live, the distance from your home address to your college campus. So we use the air code from the student's home address to the air code of the student campus they're attending to get us that distance and award accordingly.
Brilliant, Dave. Thank you. And of course, as far as I'm aware, that distance shortened this year, which is great, which as somebody who lives, just probably within that, when I would be going to college, I'm about 30 something kilometers from IT Sligo. So
yeah,
if I was going now, it's better for me. So it's reduced, hasn't it? Yeah. So it's
there have been some announcements, obviously, in Budget 22 about, and one of them was that the adjacency rule would be changing. So SUSI are aware of that. We're waiting further instruction from the Department of Education on that. But you need to bear in mind that we operate under the student grant scheme, which is issued annually. So obviously, all those announcements, we're expecting them to be included in the new scheme, which will be available to us in spring 21. So, but until we get that actual scheme, we can't say 100%. But obviously, we would expect that anything that was announced would be included in that.
Brilliant, excellent. And in terms of second last question, Dave, because I once again I'm conscious about 3 minutes to go, but criteria and eligibility, people can check that out online themselves, can't they?
Yes, if you just go to the website again, one of the buttons on the front is titled eligibility criteria. So they're usually things in terms of nationality, residency, progression in education, then there's an income assessment. That's what we assess all students on, no matter. But you can get, if you go to the criteria page on the SUSI website, it will give you more detailed information on those criteria.
Excellent, excellent, Dave. I think anyone I'm ever chatting, I'm always encourage people to apply anyway, regardless. More than a sports scholarship to that in here in the college, because the worst somebody can say is no. And finally, last but not least, successful applicants. Dave, when would they be likely to find out? I know it's a difficult enough question, but timescale wise next year?
Yeah, it can be sort of unique to each application, but normally it would be approximately 4 weeks before the first notification that students would get back. Now, some students, the first notification they will get will be that they have actually been awarded, because we do have automatic links with Revenue and Department of Social Protection, so we can automatically check the information that is given to us. So as I say, some students, the first notification will be you've been awarded your grant, sort of thing. Or unfortunately, in some cases, it might be you've refused a grant, okay? But in some cases, we will need to look for some documentation in support of the application. So if that's the case, students will get what we call a checklist letter detailing exactly what we need them to send in to us. At that point, then it's really down to the time frame that they take to return that documentation. They're normally given an indication of when we need it back on the letter they get. But if they have any issues, they can contact the support desk to say, we need a bit more time, and that's fine. But obviously at that point, then it really depends how quickly they get them into us and they're reviewed. So 4 to 6 weeks normally, but obviously there are some that take a bit longer.
Brilliant, Dave. And of course, anyone wants to contact you or the team there, of course, they can go to www.susi, and that's susi.ie, where they can ask their questions and, of course, to apply, which is really, really important. And in fact, Susie is not a real person. I've actually had somebody ask me before if they can speak to Susie, Suzanne, or whoever it was. I said, no. So it's Susi, susi.ie. And Dave there, you're in very capable hands. Get chatting to him, and he'll look after you. Dave, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And thanks once again, Maria. Thank you, Ellen. And once again, thank you, Dave. I know it's Friday evening and you're giving up your time for us. So thank you so much. It's been fantastic information. I'm sure everyone who's tuned in or who will watch this after this event will get some great hints, tips, and information there. Thanks so much once again. Enjoy the rest of your Friday nights and your weekends. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.